Hi everybody, and welcome to the webinar. Sorry, we've just been having a couple of little technical difficulties here as we've been getting started, but thank you very much all for bearing with us. So today's webinar will mainly be focusing on the mobile app, MobileEOM. We'll be looking at some of the features and functionality, so we'll get started with an introduction to the menus. Show you how to start creating projects. We'll also look at opening and existing projects as well as importing from other projects you may have started standalone on the mobile devices. We're going to focus quite a lot on EICRs with today's webinar. We'll look at how we can build up a network within the mobile device, create various circuits, and then record the test results as we go along. Within MobileEOM, we've had the beta out for a little while, and the version you're going to see today has got a large number of updates and things that we've added into the mobile app that have been requested as part of the feedback from the beta trial. So you're going to see things in there that you haven't seen so far. So we've got things like schematics. We've got a system where it's going to be automatically estimating things like cable lengths and those sorts of things for you. We're going to look at some of the features around limitations and observations. We've added in some really good functionality where it actually works in with the schedule of inspections. So as you're identifying issues, it's going to be automatically applying information in the schedule depending on the codes you've given those observations. So hopefully those all going well. It should be a really good webinar. Dimitri?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, I think. Yep.
All right, cool. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is okay.
There have been a number of questions in previous webinars about the mobile app. We will be releasing fully on iOS as well as Android with the mobile app, so that the same functionality and abilities will be available on both platforms for those that prefer to use one or the other. As it's been so far, the beta has been only on Android, but because of the way we've written the mobile app and the language it's in, it's been produced to work both on iOS and Android as it goes along. So we've been testing the developments on iOS as we've been going along with the feedback from the Android beta. So we've got a question from James, who's asked, is the iOS version out? No, the iOS version currently isn't out. The reason for that is with the beta, where we're doing regular updates, it takes a lot longer to get things through the iOS store out there for people to use. So the decision that we run the beta on Android until we had everything working into a state where we were happy, and on full release, then we'll release on both iOS and Android, as the process then will be much easier to follow through. I've got a question from someone. I have a Windows Surface. Will I be able to use the mobile app? Yeah, so Windows Surface, I believe, is a either a full version or a mobile version. I believe you can download on the store there. I'm not entirely sure about the operating system for Windows Mobile. Dimitri, have you got any?
Yeah, so Windows Mobile is not supported, only Android and iOS.
Okay. Oh, and thank you very much, Alan. Is there any other questions anyone would like to know before we get started?
All right, I think I'm gonna abandon the iOS, unfortunately, and I wanted to show you some goodies there, but it's a larger screen. But yeah, so
is there functionality to carry out a survey report as opposed to an EICR? I'm assuming from your question there, Jake, you're asking if basically you can collect data to build the schematic information into ElectricalOM to fill out design correct. Yeah. So Yeah, in there, I mean, when you're filling out, you can produce something like an EICR, but you don't have to complete test results. So you can build your network, you can build your schematics, get the data from various distribution boards and final circuits in there as you wish to do so, and then import that straight into ElectricalOM and carry on with the design from there. It doesn't physically require you to have to input test results to get that data back into the core software. Will this negate my use of EasyCert? Well, if you're using EasyCert and it's a program that you prefer to use as your certification software, we don't require you to have to use ElectricalOM certification. It's down to personal preference. So if there's other softwares that you are using, by all means you can carry on using them. We do have an import functionality from EasyCert. So we have an API where you can take your certificates from EasyCert and bring them into ElectricalOM. So it really will be down to your own personal preference. I will say that our system that we're producing is designed obviously to work more closely with the core software and has a number of features that you won't find in any other software. Hopefully you'll see in today's demonstration. Just want to answer one more question.
Yes,
I have from Jake. He's also asked, when inserting the electrical build, create the schematic, will it flag up issues? Yes, if you've selected things like protected devices, manufacturers, makes, cable sizing, those sorts of things, it will flag up warnings in the core software of that data you've collected where you don't have things like correct selectivity, issues with adiabatics, issues with conductor sizes, all the things you would expect to see as you were building a network within the core software. That information will also be checked when it's brought in from the mobile app. Okay, so I think Dimitri is ready. Yes. So I'm going to hand over to you. So thank you very much for your questions to begin with there, and appreciate you all bearing with us while we got over those technical difficulty. And I shall hand over to Dimitri.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, my apologies for the inconvenience with showing you the iPad. But the whole, I mean, the whole experience is exactly the same. So what I'm going to talk today, I'm going to show you the concept, how you can start with a EICR, and then how you can eventually, make changes with multiple engineers and this kind of stuff, where I think it's one question that is around for a long time, and how you can update, your existing, models having the mobile app device. So the first thing, of course, is to start a new project. So we are assuming now that we are on site, okay, and we are, surveying the site and collecting information. So that's the concept here. So it's a new project that we're starting. So we can start a new project, of course, and give it a name. So P1, and then a job ID. So the job ID is, it's important to have it because it will allow you to filter with multiple projects having the same job ID. So you can imagine this as a folder, common folder, which you would like to reference each project. So for example, if you're going to share, if multiple engineers are going to work on the same project, they have to share the same job ID as a quick way to, to reference that. And share the exports from the mobile device to the core software. Okay, and then we can choose other options, and one important option is the inspection condition report setting here, and domestic installation, of course, as well. So this option here is important because eventually it's going to update the inspection schedule list, where you can see it from here. Okay, so this inspection and schedule list will be updated based on what the setting here at the project info is. Okay, so it's something which you have to do because eventually we're going to reference these inspection items with each observation. So we have to have the same inspection list for each of the engineers working with their mobile devices. Okay, so and then some defaults like your name, your position, okay, and then your equipment information, okay. So those details will be, reference where you're doing tests. So it's good to have them defined like that. Okay, so the next thing, of course, which you can do is to go through this inspection schedule list if you want, and go and pick some, items. So if you want to make them pass or C1, depending on the case, and then you can double click and put a comment there. Okay, so I'm not gonna show you a lot of this stuff here in the inspection list. I'm gonna cover the idea of auto-filling this inspection list through the observations that we're collecting on site, because this is the optimal way of dealing with this kind of concept. So so that's our inspection, and then we need to go and to electrical distribution. So this is how we define the network. Okay, so this is how we define the structure of the network and each panel that we're going to eventually test. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the origin, which is assuming to be the origin of the installation, but in any case, it can be the origin of your testing. So meaning that if you're going to test an extension of an installation, that extension, that point can be your testing origin, let's say, all right? But in any case, you can skip the origin and have it and go to the unconnected. So if you're going to test something which you don't really know where this is coming from, you can go to the unconnected and start creating panels to the unconnected. Okay, and then there is a way to bring them back to the origin or to the actual connection point. So unconnected is unknown. It's panels where you don't really know where they've been supplied from. So you start with that if you want, and then you can move them to the origin point. So in my case, I will assume that I'm at the origin point and I know what's going on there. So I'm going to insert the main panel. So how you insert the main panel, you need to choose the origin, and then you choose to insert a distribution board, like for example, 3-phase. Okay, so we're following a similar logic like the logic we have in the core software. So here is the main panel with the several ways, and in order to edit the ways, you can either double tap or through this menu action, choose edit, and then you can choose the prefix, maybe a description. So let's call it main, a location. Okay, let's ground floor. And then the number of ways. So I'm going to choose 6. All right. So then you see that we have other options, other tabs to choose. So what is this cable type? So I'm at this point, so I see that it's an XLP, it's coming to clip direct, okay, and the size of this cable is 35, for example, okay. Again, this area here is similar to what you're doing here in the circuit editor of the core software. So in the Earthings tab, you can define the way the CPC has been arranged, and it's important to define this option because eventually it's we're gonna understand how the arrangement is and how we need to deal with the actual calculations after importing everything to the core software. And of course, it will help us calculate the estimation of the length as well after having the R1, R2 readings. So of course, in this case, we can choose cable armor, since it is an armor cable, separate conductor, and the other options from here. So I'm gonna leave that to cable armor. And then I'm gonna move on to the next screen, which is protection. So here we have a list of all the manufactured devices that we support in ElectricalOM. Okay, so you see we have generics, of course, and since we are doing an actual, survey here on site, we can actually see what's going on there and pick the right, manufacturer. And this is quite important because all the MACZS value are going to come directly from the manufacturer figures. Also, when we're going to import everything to the ElectricalOM, ElectricalOM will be capable of doing discrimination studies and this kind of stuff, which are really important to reference them and report observation if possible, if we see something which is not correctly, behaving there. So
yeah, it's a good point here in terms of the information from the manufacturer. It's worth remembering that although we have generic values that a lot of us probably use from BS7671 and those sort of data alike, I mean, when it comes to certain other types of devices where we come across AACBs and MCCBs and these sorts of things, often you have to go away and look at that data separately, whereas we've actually built that now within the software back to those manufacturer specific. So where you might have used generic values in the past, and you still can within the software, we do have all the manufacturer specific data for a lot of ranges there where you can commonly find them on site. So where you may find that previously by using the generic values, you'll find that you're getting failures and things like the ZS and your continuity values and these sorts of things. When we're using the manufacturer specifically that are there, we're actually getting finding out that a lot of these systems are actually correct to the design and passing as part of those. So if you can, it's really good to use manufacturer specific data.
Yep. Yes. So I'm going to choose Schneider for this example, just to, and you see that I'm getting, the devices types and this kind of stuff, which you can get from, Schneider device. So let me just choose something like that. And of course the rating. Now, one thing that you might start thinking now, oh my God, this is too time-consuming process. I have to go through all this, stuff. And the answer to this is that we make some changes to the software to help you quickly reference similar information and copy and paste, or with quick adjustments, or with creating templates. Okay, so eventually you will see that this process will be quite fast, because you're going to reference the same circuits all the time, and then you can just change what's different there. So you don't have to follow the same logic for each circuit that you're going to start creating in this project. Okay, but it's of course good to know this environment to understand what this can do. And then we can go to the incomer side of this panel, where we can see the main switch. Okay, so we can define here the main switch. If there is a protected device here or an RCD acting as the main switch, you can choose the various options. So it's going to let you define the actual switch configuration there. But I'm going to assume that they have just this connector here with this rating. Click Save to update that. And here we see that we have the same reference, and we have the ways that we define there. Okay, so now to start inserting the so now we are looking at the panel, and we see the ways here, which currently are empty, but of course we can see on site that those ways they're supplying equipment. So usually going to have the labels there telling you what equipment that is. So let's assume that from here we're going to another panel, so we can insert from this way. So we choose the way we would like to insert something, choose the insert button here, and then choose what we would like to insert. So we can insert another 3-phase board or final load. So I'm going to go with another 3-phase board, and this is DB2, which we can double click and follow similar process like before. So we may not know the location where this is located, so we can skip that for now. Okay, and we can then go and fill this up. Of course, we can pick the cable type, or we can just skip it. And when we actually we're going to actually go to that location, we can then complete the details there. So one thing here is that, so I'm going to assume here that I have another one just to start creating a content there. So one thing which will help a lot here is the fact that you can list each panels individually through this list here. So for example, if I want to list only DBA, I can just pick the panel from here, and it's going to show me only DBA here, right? So I don't have to have the whole network listed, which is at the origin side like that. I can list individual panels like that to help me fill the details like that, and the information of each panel. So that's what the circuit, the electrical distribution page view is. And one thing that we created in the upcoming update of the mobile app is the DB layouts. So the DB layouts will help you see a better view of the whole network. So at the moment, we see that we have a main and two submains, and you can see the network structure like that, which is easier for you to go and navigate through each of the panels. All right. And if you want to make adjustments, so let's assume that we managed to get to DBA and want to make some adjustment there, we can select it, and then we can go to the menu and say, all right, I want to access the editor. So it's going to take me to the editor. So the same screen where we were editing before, it's exactly the same screen here for DBA. So it's an easy way to navigate through, the network like that. Or of course, you can follow the same logic like before by going to the editor here and pick the right editing panel. Now, after finish with that, so let's assume now we are on DBA. We want to fill information related to DBA. So we can go to the circuit details. You see, at the moment, everything is empty. So we don't want to go and right-click, insert, final load, so on. What we want to do, we want to quickly create circuits related to DBA. So we're going to access the circuit details tab. So here we have the DBA, and in this page, you see a table view of this DBA, which currently lists all ways which are empty. Okay, and what we can do, we can just double click there or double tap to start editing the information. So here we have, let's assume, a socket ring main with number of points. We can skip that. We can edit that later, depending on how we're gonna do the observation. And then we can start filling the details about the cable type. So I'm gonna choose flat twin and earth. Maybe it's on, let me choose tray. Okay, and then the size of this cable. You see, it's automatically, took that the CPC is integral, since we're talking about twin and earth cable here. So we don't really need to go and take that value. And then you choose the type of device. So now I'm gonna go and pick, similar manufacturer. I'm assuming an RCBO here, 30 milliamps, type C, and 32 amps, and hit save. So now this item is listed like that here. So you see all the details that are just defined. So if I have a similar, usually going to have the same manufacturer there. So let's assume, same manufacturer, maybe similar properties for each circuit here. So you don't have to repeat the whole process. You can just say copy and then paste. Okay, so that's something which you can do, and then you don't have to access the editor. You can just quickly edit the values directly from here. Okay, so this might be, for example, a water instant heater. We have 1 point here. Okay, cable might be the same. Maybe change the cable size from here. So you see, we're not accessing the editor. We're just referenced directly from, editing directly from the circuit details here. And the rating of this device might be 20, for example. Okay, so this is how you can quickly, do the adjustments. And now so now let's assume we have this already done many couple of times, and we want to save this as a template. So we're going to use it into the same project or maybe to future projects. We can select it and say save as template. Okay, and now we can go and load this as a template. So you see I have a couple of templates here, and this is my FC2 one I just created. And here's exactly the same thing, which can be quickly referenced for any project. So this is maintained. So this template list is maintained across all the projects that you're going to edit in this particular device. So this is how you can quickly, create the panel, define the panel. So the idea here is to define what we are looking at, and then define the design characteristics actually, and then go and test it. So we have let's assume we have the design characteristics here. Then we want to go and test it. So to test it, we go to this page, circuit test results. Okay, and here you see the testing, table. Now, during this testing, we can go and collect observation, which we see. So the idea of the software, the mobile app, the way it's dealing with observations is to is kind of localized per item or per circuit that you are dealing with. So if there is something wrong with this FC1, I can collect the observation with referencing FC1. So I'm not going to insert an observation which is a general observation. I can directly observe that problem directly by referencing the FC1. So at this point, I would like to show you a structure that we're using to do that. So here I have just quickly created, a block box to explain you this idea. So initially you have the project. Okay, so the project has a number of distribution boards, and each distribution board has a number of final circuits. Now, for the project, you can have general observations. For the distribution boards, you can also have observations which are related to this distribution board. And for the final circuit, you can have observations which are related to this final circuit. So with this logic, you can quickly reference each observation to the relevant inspection item and get this inspection item list filled out automatically through this observation collection here. Okay, so this is the idea that we're doing in the way of collecting information. So let's assume that we have an observation here to record. So I'm gonna click there, and we need to add the observation. Okay, and then we choose a code. So let's assume C1. Okay. So let's assume that we see that the socket is broken or whatever. So just type there. And then you can choose to add, to insert a photo. Okay, you can choose photos from your mobile device, or you can choose to take the photo directly from the camera. Okay, so I'm gonna choose camera. Okay, so let's assume this is the faulty equipment. And I'm gonna apply that. So here we have the photo taken, and then we can go and add a note. So note about socket. All right. And then the other thing is that this observation can reference an inspection item in the inspection item list. So if we double tap there, it's going to bring us the inspection item lists to reference, this observation. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you're, comfortable with reading all these notes, inspection items. So there is a circuit section where you can, reference the problem there. So I'm gonna just pick one randomly. Okay, so that's the one I choose to reference. And then you can see that we have other options. And one other option is eventually when we're gonna do the observations, we're gonna come back to to fix these items, we can choose to rectify it and rectify it by and rectify it with nodes and the date of the rectification and maybe assign a cost. So eventually we can do to collect extra information that will be helpful during this process. Okay, so this is how we collect observations. You can collect more than one observation per item here. And the other thing here that we have created is the templates of the observation. So similarly to the templates of the circuits, you can create templates for the observations as well. So if you want to save this as a template, so if you see this, all the time, you want to save that so you don't have to type all this information or even reference the inspection item, you can save this as a template. And then let's assume I'm going to go to another equipment there. I can add an observation, okay, and then use the templates. So this is my template to load that observation there. Okay, so you see it's listing the same observation item as well. You see that the image is not there, of course, because we don't want to reference the same item, same image. So we need to take another image for that guy. Okay, so with this idea, you can quickly, get your observations done. And you can see that next to each item, we're listing the numbers of observation collected. So in this particular case, we have one item, one observation collected for final load 1 and for final load 2. Okay, and then, and of course, you can go and fill the test result like that. So if I go now and do the R1, R2, and go and put the value there, the app will give me an estimation of the length of the run, okay? Because we have already defined the size of the cable, we know what this cable is about. We know the material, we know the cable type and all the necessary information. So we can go and get an estimation of the length of the run, which might be useful, during this this testing process. Okay, so the rest of the stuff are quite straightforward. I mean, you just type something, you just tap an option there, and you fill your result. Okay, and if you have similar results, you can copy them by fill column below like that. Okay, so on. So polarities, and of course it is. Now, if you want to do the test results for the DB, okay, you can access the DB here. So you can reference the ZS at DB and the fault level at the DB and any RCD related disconnection time here as well, polarities and phase sequence as well. Okay, so at this option, you can see that we're referencing the same multifunctional equipment, the same engineer, and you can also put some notes there. Okay, now, so this is how you collect the observations. Now, if, all right, so let me go and do another observation for DB3. I have empty circuits here, so I'm gonna go to the main one. So I'm gonna collect an observation related to DB3, okay. So I'm gonna add an observation, C1, cover is empty, whatever, cover broken, okay. You can take the picture, I'm gonna skip that. And the other items which will be related to that observation. So I'm sorry, I'm not referencing the the actual component or the code, but I'm pretty sure that you understand the process and the logic behind this. So here is one observation for the distribution board. So now the other thing that we created another screen which will help you inspect all the observations collected, and this is here. So all observations. So in that screen, we have options to give you an idea of what the observations are across the whole network. So at this point, we have we're looking at all. So you see all the observations collected, okay, with the relevant items. So if we could want to quickly see what are the observations related to DB2, DBA, you can choose the DBA. It's going to filter only the observations related to the DBA, and it's going to show you the reference of that observation. So this is referencing FC2 of DBA. This is referencing FC1 of DBA. So you keep a structure, a nice structure of what's going on, so you can easily follow. And this is quite important in in large installations where you have hundreds of panels and many observations to list. So that's one thing that would be, of course, useful. And the other thing is that you can list all panels. So this is a new screen as well, where you can list all panels just to have an idea of what's going on and where each panel is coming from, of course. And you can go here and quickly tap the location, do your ZS test. So you don't have to go to the actual testing page to do your ZS test for this panel. You can quickly navigate to the screen that lists all distribution boards to do your testing. Okay, so I can do my testing here as well. And of course your polarity and so on. So you see this okay due to the fact that we have done this testing already. Okay, and so I'm going to quickly show you something else that we have recently created. Here is a drawing. So this is something we're working on. It's not ready yet. So here, the idea is that you can import a drawing, a PDF drawing, into the mobile app, which you can use as a map, when you're doing your testing. So this is my PDF drawing. And you can see that, because you can zoom in, and you can take notes in that drawing. So you can take some notes. You can put some text there. Okay, so, sorry. So C1. Okay, so you can reference that like that. And this is something which eventually is going to reference the actual observation, or it's going to also create the observation for you while you're navigating through the site. But it's something which eventually will help you identify easily through a drawing each observation. So this is a work in progress, of course. So now after finishing with that, so let's assume we have we have collected the information, and we want to transfer the information back to the office. So we can share the project file, or we can email the project file. We can use Dropbox. Share project file. Yeah, I'm going to use Dropbox MobileEOM. So I'm going to add that there. So I'm expecting this to start, synchronizing my Dropbox file here. So I'm going to file from the ElectricalOM, import MobileEOM, and then you can choose the Dropbox MobileEOM, and this is my project. So P1. So the project name is getting the first, the project description, and then you have the date, which you share the file. So you can have quick reference to when this is shared. Now we are reverse engineering the whole structure into ElectricalOM. Okay. So this is the structure like that. So you see the main. This is the cable. You see this 35 I just created. So if I access this main circuit, you will see that we are referencing the same, manufacturer, the same device. And of course, you see here a problem related to the cable size versus the rating of the device. So you see this cable size is not correctly, something which is not sufficient to withstand, the rating of the device, which is a requirement for compliance. So it's something which, of course, you can do an observation for that. which is difficult to do it on site. So you like the software to help you with this, this kind of calculation related observations. And of course, other things that you see here are, the selectivity stuff, which again can be helpful to get observations more, get extra observations related to extra stuff that is difficult to observe on site. So now let's assume this is my the insertion, and we want to create a certificate about that. So, or a report, excuse me. So I'm going to create.
Sorry, Dimitri, just before we move on,
yes.
do you mind just showing? Obviously, we've imported there. Would you show them where you can actually see the test results we've imported that we put in on some of the circuits earlier on in the circuit edit?
Yeah. So in circuit edit, you're going to have the test tab here, where you will get the relevant test results here. So each insertion you're doing will be listed here, and you can get the source as well. So where this test result is coming from. Okay, so you're going to have a historical record of each circuit with all the test results eventually. So you can make a extra observation about that. It should, a healthy size should behave similarly across years. But
yeah,
if you see
one of the things you'll be able to do from here is in the report section later on, produce tables and charts to show deterioration over periods of time. So if you're doing testing on the same installation over many years, you will be able to use your previous test data from whether it be installation certificates, minor works, and EICRs, meaningful data that can be then given to the client to show issues and deterioration over a period, and how many of the same issues they're getting over and over to help improve either behaviors or maintenance processes on sites.
Yeah. So, and then of course, you can create your UK from the UK for the certificate like you do normally. So you choose the type of certificate. It's important to reference the same, category as well, because the inspection items, as I said before, are related to this category. So before creating the report, make sure that you get the right, details here as well. And then if I access that, going to the observations, you see the observations that I just collected. Okay, the cover broken, the broken sockets. And next to each observation, you will get the picture, okay, which I collected on site with the various notes and dates related to that particular observation. And of course, the other thing which you'll see is that the inspection item is a reference here. So this is the inspection item I've selected at the mobile app. And if I click to this inspection item, it will take me to the inspection category, to the inspection list, item list, to pick one. Of course, it's highlighting the one I've just selected. Yeah. So if I now go to the inspection and test schedule, you will see that we have all this as an outcome to the relevant inspection items. Okay, so this is observation from circuits. So we have two circuits referencing that particular inspection item, and the final outcome is C1. So if I want to see why the final outcome is C1, I can click there, and it will list me the two items related or responsible to that particular decision. Okay, because those two are coded as C1. So if we have C1 and C2, of course, it's going to take the worst case, which will be C1. Okay, so this is how you can quickly, automatically fill that list through the observations. So when you do observation, you don't have to go in that list and tick the boxes there. You can do the observations. It will reference each item here, and then of course you can go and fill the rest of them. Okay. Of course, during the distribution, at the distribution board level here, you can see the relevant tests coming up here. Okay. So if I go to DBA, you should be able to see the R1, R2 test here. And if I go to DBM, I should be able to see the ZS test I've done for DBA. Okay, so that's how you bring in information, and that's how you create the reports. So if I go and print that report, just to see how this is going to look like, we made some extra adjustments here to make it look better based on feedback from users. So may put some colors here. So these are the observations. And of course, those are the test results. Then we have this observation details report, which is going to list, each observation with the picture next to it. So when you're presenting something like that, it's really clear what the problem is and the relevant, items that are related to this observation, the relevant circuits, the descriptions, and so on. So all the details that you're recording on site are transferred to the core package here at the office. Now, let's assume that that this is not the final network, and we have other engineers working on site, and we're expecting for them to bring us their test results. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the mobile app. Okay, and then I'm assuming that now I'm someone else, so I'm going to create my project. Current project is not saved. Okay, so probably I will use similar descriptions and references. So for this, I'm going to call dbf. So I'm filling dbf, the same project ID. It's important to list the same, to reference the same items here, because eventually when you are doing the observation, you want to have the same inspection item list. Okay, as I said before, of course, fill the names and the test equipment. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the electrical distribution, and instead of going to the origin, I'm going to go to the unconnected and insert a panel which is, I have no idea where it's coming from. I'm on the second, third floor, whatever, of that building, and I'm doing the observations there. I'm collecting details there. So I'm going to quickly add something from the templates. Okay. Load from templates. So lighting. Okay. And I'm going to get another. So there are 2 or 3 panels at this location. So I'm going to create another one. You can do similar, this environment has similar logic to this environment, so you can quickly copy and paste between panels, and like that. Oops, paste. Okay, and I'm gonna quickly do some tests and observations. So I want to go to DB1, do an observation. We'll fill that from template. Let's assume we have the same thing here. Take the same camera. Okay. And I'm gonna get my inspection item, which is already through the template defined. So I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna do a test here. So 0.1. Okay, and then I'm gonna share this. Okay, so I'm gonna share this to the office. So share project file. Yeah, that should be there. So now at the office, we're expecting to get another ElectricalOM, MobileEOM share file, which is there. So what I'm going to do, I'm on the same project now. So I'm going to file, import MobileEOM. Okay, so I'm going to choose the DBF. So that's the one that the other guy sent me. And you see, it's not doing any actions. It's just listing me what's going on. So it's listing me that you have this information included from the MobileEOM MobileEOM, which are listing, and also it's listing the missing parts with red. So if I want to go to the next missing load, next missing panel. So from here, you know that you have to connect, for example, this guy DB1 to this main panel, for example. Okay. So you will right click here and say insert selected. Okay. And now you're going to get that information there. And you can continue with the other one, which is missing. Okay, insert selected, let's assume it's coming from 3L2. So you can eventually get many files from the MobileEOM devices to the office to complete, the network. So each of the engineers can work in several parts of the building, collect details, and then bring them into the office to finalize the whole structure here. Of course, if you're going to do re-inspections or testing of the same site in the future, you can see that you can instead of inserting or synchronizing everything, you can right-click and say update test results. So you can just update the test result for all the circuits or maybe the panel that you inspected. Okay, so we have options here to help you, updating the model based on the information that you like to include the model. Okay, so it's not going to always recreate the whole thing from scratch. It's going to maintain the model, but it's going to update it based on what you like to include in the model from your mobile equipment. So now we have this done and we're happy. Let's go back to the UK forms. So now the UK forms, we can click, of course, we need to close that. And then we will open that again. Go to the observations, and you see that we have an extra observation, okay, from DB1, which is this guy here, we just created. So we are completing the report like that. And of course, it's following the same thing like the inspection item list. So we're expecting to see extra items at the particular node here. So you see, before it was 2, now it's 3 because they're referencing the same equipment, the same inspection item here. Okay, and of course now we have the other panels listed here. So this DB1 and this is DB2, of course. Okay. So this is how you can, this is how you can use this concept to quickly, get information from several engineers without referencing the same model, but you're inspecting, different items and different locations on site. And but of course, to get the most of the information that you're collecting, you have to have the model, because the model will explain or will simulate what's going on and give you warnings and notifications and extra observations depending on the case. So by including everything to the model like that, you get extra, information that are necessary during your reporting. So now we made some extra stuff here to make this more intuitive and more kind of, let's say, nice, with a nice workflow. So we created this rectification details where you can do the rectifications set from the mobile app, but you can complete it here as well. And here at the rectification details, you have a rectified insert. So you can reference a certificate like a minor work certificate or an electrical installation certificate, which you issued when you rectified this this fault here. So for example, if I go back and create a new electrical installation certificate, okay, which eventually is going to rectify the panel DBA, which has a problem there. So here in the panels, I will exclude the rest of the panels. So exclude selected, check all. I'm going to keep only DBA, okay. So now I'll exclude it. And now let's assume I've completed that and I'm happy. Now I'm going back to my EICR, and here at the observation list, I will be able to choose the certificate which is I have created to rectify that problem. Okay, and when I'm going to print that, eventually it's going to attach that certificate to my report. Okay, so eventually it's going to have a more comprehensive report to list with the extra, certificate at the very end, which was responsible for rectifying this problem. So that's the electrical installation, which is attached at the very end. And the other thing here is that you can export that to Excel, because eventually all these observations are good to be listed, so you can quickly reference them to your client, or maybe you're going to use them to do a quotation, so you can export that. The other thing which we have created here is that if you want to sort this list based on what you like to present, you can sort based on the code. So for example, if that code was a C2 code, excuse me, that code was a C3 code, and yeah. And then if I want to list them based on the code, you see that it's going to sort them based on the code. And we have other options like based on the inspection item, based on distribution board and the code, or combination of distribution board and inspection item, circuit code, or circuit inspection item. So you can have a quick way to sort this based on the way you'd like to present this information to your client. And this is really useful when you're dealing with large sites with many boards. So if you wanna group the boards into together and list the observations related to that board, you can use this sorting item here. Or if you want to focus on the codes, you can use this sorting item here. And of course, at the end, the report is going to use the sorting code that you selected here to list the item there.
Just conscious of it on the time and where we're getting. Just had someone popped up about the R1, R2 calculations. Would you be able to just quickly demonstrate where we've got excessive test results coming in from the mobile app and how they flag in the core software to show potential issues from values such as R1, R2s and high ZSs, please?
Sure. So now, because everything is coming up directly from the mobile app, the R1, R2s will be similar to to this model, but in this case, DBA, which I think we haven't really defined anything there, you get this problem here. So you see this error factor of 85, and this is because in the test we have defined the ZS, which was 0.1. Okay, so yeah, let me rephrase that to make it more obvious what's going on. So in this model, you have an external impedance. Okay, so we haven't talked about the external impedance. My mistake. I should have thought about that at the very beginning. So the external impedance can be defined either in the mobile app, okay, through the through this. So at the origin, if you double tap here, you're gonna get the external impedance here. Okay. Now, this external impedance now is also defined here as well. Okay. So that's external impedance. So since we're talking about ZS, we want the whole path, right? So we want the whole path from the origin back to, the origin through the earthing. So here is our ZS, which is 0.1. But we can see that the calculated ZS based on the upstream network is 0.8 here. So the details that we have defined in this area here, okay, and in this origin point external impedance are eventually going to give us the calculation of the ZS. But what we have measured in this case is 0.1. So there is an inconsistency with the design details, the design parameters versus the test results. So this is important because we want to have a model which is a reflection of the behavior of an installation, the actual behavior of the installation. So something is wrong here, okay? And of course, if you go to the phasing interconductor, you see that this is 1 square millimeter. So, and the meters are not quite referenced. So those details are not referenced correctly from, or are not updated through the insertion. So that's a really important thing to have. So during this this process, you're gonna get these warnings telling you which are the mismatching, values you get from test results versus design results. And we have a factor of 10% to flag up this error. So our limit to say, okay, this should be flagged up as an error message will be a 10% variation between the test results versus the design results. So in this case, it's 85%. So we should flag it as something which you should go and consider.
I think also one of the things that we're looking to be doing, we're going to make that user selectable, aren't we, as well? So you can set your own percentage parameters. Some people like to go with the parameters as per the British standards for the instruments. So instruments themselves for certain tests allow a certain percentage. And also, I mean, we're using ZS here, but ZS isn't the only calculation check that we're doing on this basis here either. There are other parameters there that are being done as calculation checks as well.
Yeah, so R1, R2s are also used. So if I think I've collected some. So you see here is 0.2 and it's not flagging it as an error, because if you sum those two, you're going to be close to this value, okay? Considering some correction factors as well. So this is a working temperature. So we're talking about the cable temperature, which is 70. And here is a testing temperature. So there are some variations, between those two. But of course, we get, you're going to get an indication if something is not consistent.
Yeah. So we've calculated for all the differences in coefficients and temperature changes and those sorts of things with various conductors and their installation methods. So there's quite a lot of things happening there in the background to get those numbers together.
I don't know if there is something which is not clear. I know we are running out of time, but my apologies for the delay with setting up the iPad. But of course, the idea is to show you how you can use the mobile app to reference the information collected on site back to the ElectricalOM software to help you get a model which eventually you're going to use in the future, when you're doing other, inspection of the same installation. Because eventually the whole thing can be exported. You can export that to MobileEOM, as we have shown, in previous videos or webinars. So you can export everything to MobileEOM. So you can use this as a reference to go and retest, your the network which you have already than the model here. So having this concept in place will be really efficient and helpful to maintain, the whole thing, and make sure that you are aware of what's going on, because that's the tricky thing here. That's the key thing here, to improve the awareness of the whole thing, to know what's going on there, to easily inspect it, to manage it, all this stuff. And of course, this is quite, few boards, but you may have hundreds of boards, which eventually is going to be difficult to inspect and maintain like that. So you need a model to help you, with this process.
So that's, thank you very much. I'm just going to hit on a few things that people have been popping up about, questions. There's been a few questions about when the latest update, so the things that we've been sharing today, will be put out for release. I think we're looking to just finish a few items here, and there's a couple of the little developments that we've been working on to go in there. I believe we're looking at a release for sort of towards the end of next month, I believe.
Let me check my calendar. Yeah, I think, end of this month we should be able to release something. Yeah.
Okay, end of this month. That's even better.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, so yeah, we have that forward. The main software update. Often people need to check for updates. Usually we send out information updates, and usually if there's a newer version available, when you open up ElectricalOM, it will tell you that there is a newer version of the software available to download. On that one, if you're restarting an installation, would the system carry all of the previous test results over or blank them all out? So yeah, if you're retesting the installation, sorry, Richard, I'm just going to take over a second here. And over here, where we go to our test, so each time a new test is done, a new line will be added. And the information that we carried over to the new test cert will be the latest data that has been recorded for that date. Also within the UK forms, you can update the data within there, pull the information over from the design within the options here.
Here is Spencer.
Yeah. So just over here. So yeah, when you carry over the next data, if you send it out to the mobile app, the test results though will be blank when it goes out to the mobile app. They won't be pre-populated. I believe that seems to be everyone's questions, unless anyone else has any questions there that they're planning on just popping up. And if you are, I'll give you some time to type there. But would like to thank everybody for coming today and taking the time to see this webinar.
Sorry, Spencer. I just
sorry.
Just someone in the chat, Jake, which is asking if we can color codes within the model. Currently no, but it's a great idea. Thank you for this, and it's gonna be something we're gonna look at. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be nice to color them based on the codes that you observe on site. So yeah, thank you for this idea, and we're gonna look at it, probably include it with the next release.
Yeah, I mean, we have a number of color options that go into the core software anyway on the models.
Yes.
To do with color grouping and those sorts of things. So I think, yeah,
sure, but this is more automated, you know, based on the observation, you get the color, which is going to be updated, the whole thing like that. It looks really nice, and it's a good idea. Thank you.
Did I have someone say that they would like to see the test results in the mobile app so they can change them and see if there's a problem? I mean, it's something we could possibly look at as an optional feature. We'll discuss it probably more after this to yourselves, but the But in terms of the historic data, when you collect data and you bring it into the core software, you will have access to all the historic data from the previous tests there anyhow. And those things will be flagged within the software where there are huge discrepancies between test results. So, I mean, is there anything else from yourself, Dimitri?
Yeah, I'm just looking at another question from Jake about the rearranging the circuit order. So you can do, I mean, any rearrangement directly from the model, and this will be reflected back to the, you know, to the test sheet here. If this is what the question is, and if we're talking about rearranging the observation list, we have this sorting, you know.
I would imagine. I mean, I think actually there was a question earlier on, but I thought we covered it during the webinar. Maybe mistaken, but on the mobile app. So if you put a circuit into a location,
yeah, okay, within the mobile app. All right, sorry. Yeah, I mean, as I said, the concept of cutting and pasting, you know, is exactly the same within the mobile app as well. So let's assume we have something like that, and we made a mistake, and we want to change, you know, the position of each of these items. So you can quickly, you know, cut it, you know, maybe put it temporarily somewhere, and then paste it, cut this, and so you can rearrange it like that. One other thing which we are looking to create here is the ability to do the shifting, which is quite useful, like we are doing here. So shift up and down like that. So you can shift them up, shift them down, which is quite useful. And yeah, we're looking at swapping as well. Okay. So we're going to improve, you know, the actual functionality in the mobile app as well. But at the moment, you can do the cut and pasting to rearrange things. And of course, this stands with any panel. So if you want to, so if you are on the, let's go to the origin and want to, you can cut this and paste it anywhere else in the network. Okay, so this is the concept of using the unconnected information. So if you have unconnected information, that you can cut this, and then you can go and paste it to the position which you want to, you know, put it like that. So now it's not unconnected. You know where this is coming from, so you will place it directly there. So this cutting paste is quite, you know, useful to rearrange the network. And also another thing which is important, the cut and paste stands with different instances of projects. So if I have, for example, if I copy this guy here and I start a new project, so if I go to the distribution, then I'll be able to, you know, to paste it. So it's preserved in the mobile app memory for several other projects. So you can, you know, combine information between projects like that, if it's something which you might want to do.
We've got a couple more questions just popping up. So I think we've got a query about a change in the phase sequence of the boards. Now, do you mean the actual physical phase sequence, or are you talking about phase rotation there? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, there are things that we have been looking at in terms of phase sequence, or phase rotation, certain items of equipment being connected, which we've been working on. In terms of phase sequence, I mean, on the main schematic, we can change how the direction of a board, and also the style in which it's looking at there. So, you know, how to match the installation itself. So that there are various features around changing the order. So where instead of going L1, L2, L3, it's going L3, L2, L1, and these sorts of things. We've also got a question about the mobile app and being able to insert things like meters, contactors, and such and alike. However, at the moment, that's not feature available in the mobile app. Dimitri, is there anything going on with that, or is there plans to do that?
These components. So yeah, I mean, those items are, I think, are schematic related, but I guess you want to collect the information so you can reference them. So we need to, we need to think about this. And
because symbols and things are something also that are very user defined as well within the software. So we'd have to see ways to make sure that those were matching between the two systems.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's something we can certainly discuss in there. Can you copy boards in the mobile app? Yeah, you can copy entire boards, entire trees. So you can copy a board as well as 3 others downstream of that board, and all the final circuits there as well. So when you copy and pasting, you are copy and pasting sections of network if necessary. I think we've answered those others there. Yeah, we've had a question about flagging certain results and those sorts of things within the report. I think some of the examples here around installation resistance as well as those sorts of things. Yeah, there are various developments we're looking at in terms of physical test results coming up in the mobile app. So where there are inconsistencies in R1, R2s, where there's inconsistencies on the ZS, volt drop, these sorts of things, that there will be sort of a very similar to the warnings section that we have down here in the core software. There should be another, I believe we're looking at another tab there, aren't we, to show those issues, and then they can be converted to observations. As it's being flagged up going along.
Yeah, it's something which is under development. Yeah, it's going to be part of the observations interface here. So you'll be able to reference, any warnings item and convert that to an observation.
And are we looking to add other certificates? Absolutely. But the thing that we decided to do is focus on the core electrical certification, being electrical installation certificates, electrical installation condition reports, and also minor electrical installation works, and focusing on the beta and making sure that the functionality was working really well in the mobile app with that. Once we're on full release, we will be looking at hopefully adding quite quickly other types of certification, so things like fire alarm, emergency lighting, and also looking at how we can link that with circuit information. I mean, you saw briefly a show how you bring in drawings. There's plans around using that as well as part of that system. So we'll keep you updated, and we'll probably do webinars specifically on them as we're preparing to launch those particular items. But yeah, I mean, I'm conscious now we're quite long on the time. I can see a couple more questions sort of popping up. For those that have popped up questions, we will go away and we'll contact you later and put them up. The next webinar will probably be in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah, Dimitri?
Yep.
You're thinking a couple of weeks?
Yeah,
about a couple of weeks' time. So we're trying to do them sort of every 2 weeks. I did see a question pop up out the corner of my eye about the fire alarm system. Is there a fire alarm system? We are working on a couple of specific items for fire alarm in around various other British standards other than 5839, which we can incorporate into the design as well. So we will be looking into that as well. And we've had as well, can we have one on the CAD plan? Absolutely, we will be having one on CAD plan. We've got various other webinars planned for the future. So we will be looking at things like advanced system modeling using things like busbar trunking systems, our UPSs, power factor correction, automatic transfer switches, various coupling choices that we have between different distribution boards, being able to build multiple sources as well as generators, and how to build complex systems and do case studies and designs based upon what supplies and those sorts of things that are switched on at the time. We'll also be looking at arc flash in the future, so we have a whole arc flash module to be looking at. We'll be looking at other various import and export functionalities that we have with this software and others like EasyCert. And also we'll be taking a look at a re-look at some other points around the selectivity study. So we'll be looking at things like cascading, backup protection and current limiting. And then anyone that has any other input that they would like to know about within the software, we always welcome feedback, actively encourage you give us as much feedback about what we're showing you here as we can, because it's how we develop and improve the product for the market. This product is constantly being updated and is pushing for work with the industry to ensure that as new technologies are emerging into the market, that we have the capacity within ElectricalOM to allow that level of work and design detail that we're hopefully providing our clients now to continue, and really pushing the boundaries of electrical design within the industry. But thank you very much to all those that you've attended. I really appreciate that you've taken the time to look. If you know people that wanted to see it and they've missed it, by all means, we will be uploading a recording of this webinar. Usually we do a couple of days afterwards. Is it, Dimitri? A couple of days?
Yep,
yeah. So we'll get that up on there. So please pass around so that it'll be on the MobileEOM YouTube channel. I believe it goes out onto the website as well. Are they present on the website? So yeah, but yeah, thank you very much from me and Dimitri.
Yeah, thank you everybody for your time as always, and I hope it was a useful webinar, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.